welcome to another Cheeky Girl Creations DIY video. So today I will be making three canvases and three thank you cards, and these are for my hosts and people who I really got along with when I went on my travels. So this was made quite a while ago. You would have seen the Instagram or Facebook posts if you follow me on there. Oh, and those links are down below. So I apologize for the camera not focusing because I've started with such light colors. It doesn't like focusing on white on white. It really does not like that. So yeah, so these are just quite quick. This video will be kind of long because I have all of them in one video, but the canvases and cards were quite quick to put together. And I'm just literally using acrylic paint with a paintbrush, and I've wet the paintbrush so that it's the paint runs a bit smoother on the canvas to just give it a wash of color. So you can see how different it looks when I put some water on there. So yeah, I apologize for this video being so late. Things were kind of hectic when I got back. Basically, I got back from my travels and I came down with a cold straight afterwards. So I wasn't able to get this video up, but from this video onwards, everything should go back to normal because I shan't be going anywhere for a while. So yeah, so I'm just adding some more color and I'm trying to make all of them slightly different. So this one's going to be orangey. And I always find this color scheme a lot harder to work with. I don't know why. I gravitate to blues and purples and sometimes greens, but oranges and yellows, I always struggle to work with that more. So this one did take a while for me to finish because I wasn't too sure what I wanted to put on top. And I'm using a selection of paints. Some of them are from Sea White and Brighton. Some of them are that one, Blue Mist, is by Royal and Langlickel, and that one came from the June sub box from last year, not this year, June, last year. And some of them are by Reeves as well. So that's really the main colors I'm using. Well, the main paints I'm using, sorry. And now I'm just going to do the cards, and with the cards I had to be a bit more careful because of course it is just plain cardstock, so I couldn't go too wet on them. And really the cards I was mostly using to take off excess paint, because I wasn't really planning to make cards at first, but I thought that would be a good idea. Oh yeah, and that one is also from the Works. I think that's by Crawford and Black, that pink. So I'm just using all sorts of colors. And this one I made more pinky purple, put a little bit of teal in there as well. And you can see I made that card quite wet, so I had to put that aside for a while to let it dry. And I'm putting the piece of paper in between the cards so I don't get any paint on the inside of the card. And I've put the paper towel down on the table because of course I'd had paint on there before when I was doing the canvases, and I didn't really want the back of the cards to be covered in paint. And you can see the yellow kind of exploded on me, so I'm going to have to use that on quite a few things to use that up so it doesn't waste. And of course, because I'm going wet and wet, I am having to move them aside to let them dry for a while because I don't want to create mud, especially purple and yellow, that creates brown. So I am having to be quite careful with that. So now back onto the canvases, I'm just adding a border with a darker paint just to kind of ground the background, so it just looks kind of more finished before I put the focal image on there. And I'm just using my finger. I have wet my finger a little bit so that the paint kind of goes on a little bit thinner, because I didn't want it too dark and too thick. I just really wanted just a light border. So you can see that looks a lot better, and then I'm going to do that on all three. And that one, on this one I kind of added some blue to see what would happen. I'm not sure if you could really see if it's blue though. It was just it was very the light blue. But yes, so that's what I'm doing. And this was really fun, doing these backgrounds like that. It's so quick and simple, and it's really fun to do. So I'll definitely say that's a great way to especially get rid of the white space. And it's a really good way, just kind of slapping on the color. And this one's like really like nice and light, kind of like soft on the eyes. I did like this one a lot. And I'm almost done with doing these borders. And made sure as well to clean my fingers like between them, so I didn't create like too much mud. And now I'm going back onto the cards while those borders are drying, because there's still some I wanted to add. So like with these, I wanted to add a border as well, but I didn't want to do it the same way as the canvases, so I'm doing it like this. So this one is like a wavy border, and I'm using this like very thin brush. It's always a liner brush. Sorry, I kind of forgot what it was called there. And that's from Hobbycraft. Anyone who's been following me for a while knows that I've fallen in love with these liner brushes. I love them. They're really good to use, and I'll use them later on as well. And now I'm adding some more color to this card. Thought it looked a bit plain. I'm adding some orange as well. And you can see where it's kind of created mud, but you have to be really careful with that. So especially like with the orange, I kind of used that to cover up whatever mud it was making. But just making sure to dry like in between layers is just a really good way to make sure you don't create mud. And you can see, especially the cards look like a hot mess, but they look really good at the end, promise. It just looked like a bit of a hot mess at the start. And this one I think was my favorite. I really like all the colors because a lot of colors were just kind of slapped on here. So now I'm adding a border. This one's going to be different. This is actually my favorite border to do on like pages, like journal pages and stuff. I really like doing this kind of like, I don't know, cross. It's like a frame. I'm not sure what you call it. Like I find the best way to finish it off by putting those like dashes like across the where the lines cross. I think those look really cool. I'm sorry the camera's still out of focus again. Oh, there we are. So yeah, so that's that one. And because the other card was still drying, I'll have to come back to that later. So now I know what I'm going to do on this one. So I'm just adding some white so that the drawing will come through when I add it. And first I added it more like where the girl was going to be, but then I went around the canvas just to make it look like kind of normal. And then I've done it on this one too. I'm just kind of pushing back the background, but not completely. So it's just really in just a few key areas where it's really dark. Oh yes, and this one I thought it needed some blue, so I added some blue to that. But very lightly, then I went in with a paper towel and kind of rubbed off some of it and just left the paint that had kind of like gotten caught in the grooves of the canvas. And now I'm adding some white paint again. Right, so now to add the border for this one. You see, I'm trying to figure out what kind of border I want. And I'm going to use this green. I'm going to use the liner brush again and add some dashes. And I've watered down the paint quite a bit so that it moves nicely with the liner brush. The liner brush does need the paint to be a little bit watered down so it moves like nice and smoothly. But the liner brush works best with inks, and you'll see that later on. So I'm just adding those dashes, and you can see as they kind of like the paint runs out on the brush, some dashes are slightly lighter and some are stronger, which I quite like the variation to that. Right, and that's that border done, and I'm going to go over now and add that green in the middle so it like coordinates. Right, so now I'm doing one of my favorite ways to add line drawings is with my calligraphy pen and black ink. So I'm drawing this girl here, and she's going to be holding a balloon. I'm putting in the ground, and it's very sketchy. This is definitely my favorite way to add details and drawings and sketches is with the calligraphy pen. It's nice and quick. Of course, this is sped up, but it's really nice and quick, and it draws on every surface really. I mean, I wouldn't put it on like say acetate because that's slippery, but I can use this on like a rough canvas and not worry about ruining the nib like a pen. And I ruin all my pens, so this is really good for me to have this calligraphy pen. You can see I've given her a very big throw, and there's her balloon to hold. So now I've added some birds, and I thought the canvas looked a little bit empty. So now I'm going to add some flowers. So I'm just making the ground a little bit longer, more across the canvas. I'm going to add the flowers now. I'm just going to do a few kind of different flowers. I say the second one I did is a bit like a tulip. I've always drawn tulips like that, but then the rest are just basically flowers from my imagination. And I'm trying to do them all slightly different so it doesn't look like samey. And I'm doing all like the stems, like different lengths as well, so you have some nice amount of variation. And then I've made sure and sign my work. I always say make sure and sign your work, it's very important. So that one is pretty much finished. Now I'm just going to add more to the border. So I'm just kind of doodling, so the scribbles and dots in different areas on the border, and then just more lines across the border. And that looks really good. And now for the highlights. And this is my favorite part because it just makes everything really pop. And you'll see everything just kind of becomes stronger and pops off the page. So when you add like black to ground your pieces, always add some white or a lighter color, you know, whatever you use to ground, just use a lighter color to add the highlights. And that looks really cool. And I've also done that to the border, but I forgot to zoom out for that, but you will see like pictures at the end, so don't worry. So now this one was definitely my favorite canvas. I decided to do a jellyfish, and I was really happy that it went well because I just decided to do it freehand and just kind of wing it. And yeah, I really loved how it turned out. So again, just using that calligraphy pen, and I'm just slowly building up like the tentacles. So first, most of the tentacles are going in the same direction, but then I'll make some of them kind of just go off slightly to the side because of course where it's going through the current, it will kind of go in the same direction, but not all tentacles will just go in like a straight line in a way. And then I'm just adding these squiggly bits because I find like some jellyfish have these kind of like lumpy kind of weird bits on their tentacles. So I just thought I would include that with this jellyfish. So you can see I've kind of added some tentacles that are going off to the side a bit. And now I want to add to the border. So I'm adding some scallops and dots as well. And I will go in with my Uniball Signal. I forgot to mention that earlier. This is my Uniball Signal pen and it's size broad. And I'm going to go through the tentacles, the jellyfish, and of course the border to add those highlights. And the canvas was looking a bit plain. I thought it didn't look finished, so I thought I would add some bubbles. Of course, it's underwater, it needs bubbles. So I'm just doing kind of like circles and dots to make the bubbles look slightly different. So there's a variation, so it doesn't all look like the same. I didn't want it to all look the same. And now I'm just adding like the Uniball Signal again in the bubbles and some dots around it. And I thought I would add some white bubbles as well. So of course you won't be able to like see it really strongly, though the Uniball Signal is quite strong on most backgrounds, but it'll just add some more like depth to the piece. And adding some more little bubbles around, and I'll be finished now. And I really love that one. That was definitely my favorite. So now on to the card, because as I said earlier, I was struggling to figure out what to put on like the orangey reddy background. So I'm going to add the sentiment to these cards, and the sentiment is thank you. And I'm using my fine liner brush again. I think I was using size 3. I wanted to be quite big and bold. And with my black calligraphy ink, and you can see how well it works. Oh, it just looks so good. I love using my fine my liner brush with inks. It's always so satisfying. So I'm just doing it very loose, and this is sped up. So when you're doing like brush lettering, go really slow. It's really sped up here, but I'm going really slow with it. And it's okay if like the brush leaves the paper, because just you can just do parts of it. So I just tend to do my letters in like 2 or 3 parts, depending. Like the Y I do in 3 parts, so I can get like that tail right. And now I'm adding some black to the border to ground the card. I found it just looked a little bit floaty. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it just didn't look grounded enough. And yeah, so that's that with that card. Oh, and I will be adding highlights later, but I'll do this one first. So again, I'm adding black to the border. Oh, what am I doing? Oh yes, I thought I was going to add something to the background of the cards because it just looked a bit plain, but I decided against that and I was going to do something different later on in the video. And then this card, the letters went even better. They were a lot thicker, a lot more how I wanted it to be. So you can see how I do that Y in like 3-4 parts kind of. And yeah, so I'm just being very loose with it and kind of exaggerating like the curves of the letters. I thought that would look quite nice on these backgrounds, on these cards. And again on this one. Okay, so now adding some splashes to the background. Just with the leftover inks from the brush. And you can see that looks a lot better now, like the background isn't as plain. And I'm going to add some black again to the borders, but I'm using my calligraphy pen because the fine liner would have been too thick. And especially for this one, it was better to use the calligraphy pen. And I really loved how these turned out, especially this one. It was really fun to do. Okay, so now I'm adding some highlights of my Uniball Signal. And because first I wasn't going to, but again, you do need like the highlights to make everything pop. And I thought that looks a lot better. And then I'm just adding some random dots on the background. Kind of pull it all in. And again, on these cards as well. And just letting you all know, the September box, mixed media box has sold out. But don't worry, you can get previous boxes as well as you can order a multiple subscription box to get future boxes so that you don't miss out this time. So yeah, just letting you guys know, all those links are below in the description as well as social media links. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and a few others. So please do check those out, subscribe to my blog, that kind of thing. So that you can get notified whenever like the mixed media boxes are launched, any other products, and of course videos. So of course I'm adding the highlights on that one and now this one. I can't remember if I added highlights to the border. I'll have to see. But of course I do add it to the letters, and adding highlights to the letters as well does help it pop off the background, because of course I am using black, but it's on such a busy background. It kind of can get lost. So adding the white really does help make it pop. Ah yes, I do add it to the border. And that looked quite cool. There we are. And of course the dots to the background. So now on to the orangey, yellowy, ready canvas. I finally decided what to do. I was going to do 2 mandalas, one from like either corner, like kind of facing each other, but like diagonally. And I haven't done a mandala in a while, actually. That makes me think I should maybe do another one. So yeah, I'm just doing it. I tend to do mine in kind of rows, and I go like curvy pattern, like kind of more geometric pattern, curvy pattern, that kind of thing. So you can see how I've kind of like done those triangles, but then I did like the scallops. And I always love adding these petals onto there. I always think those are quite fun. And this was done quite quickly. Of course, this is sped up, but it was done quite quickly. I just kind of follow the what I tend to do on mandalas. And I'm just adding some more doodles and stuff in those petals and the scallops. Oh, I'm filling in some of these petals as well, just to add like a little something. I just wanted to make it pop a little bit more from the background because of course it is a busy background. And now I'm adding some hearts and stuff to kind of come off the petals. I do enjoy doing that as well. I always think that looks quite cool when a mandala has like things coming off of the points. So that's this one pretty much done. Yeah. So now on to the next one, and I do want to make this one slightly different. And I always kind of start off with like a kind of like a circle in the middle. So of course if it's a corner, it's like a quarter of a circle. And then I try to change it up, like what kind of patterns and like what order I put them in. I did want this one to be a little bit bigger. Oh, and I totally forgot to mention, if you do want to see some of my photos from my travels, you can check them out on Instagram and Facebook. I shared a few photos with you guys because I didn't want you to miss out. So again, those are in the links below, and you can check out like where. So I went to Paris, Madrid, I did Barcelona for the day, and then I went to Lisbon, and I fell in love with Lisbon. Oh, I love Lisbon so much. Thankfully, I was able to spend most of my time in Lisbon, which was really lucky. So yeah, and I was gone for about 3 weeks. So yeah, that's where I went, and I did like an interrail. So I can't wait to do that again. That was really fun, and it was really cool. I met some really cool people, and the weather was amazing, especially in Lisbon. Oh, it was so warm, and I went to the beach. Oh, and I went to Sintra as well. That's in Portugal. It's about half an hour away from Lisbon. So yeah, so I really love Lisbon, and I can't wait to travel again. And I hope you guys did like my photos. I tried my best to take really good photos of places so that you would be able to see how gorgeous they were. Okay, so back to the canvas. So I've finished the mandala and I'm just adding a border. Again, my favorite kind of border. I thought this would be the most simplest because I didn't want the border to take away from the mandalas. And the middle looked a bit plain, so I'm going to add splashes, the answer to everything. Splashes are very important. So yeah, so I'm just adding those splashes, again using the liner brush. That makes really nice, fine splashes, I find. Oh yeah, and I smudged a bit of the mandala because the ink wasn't like completely dry yet, but I was able to fix it, so no worries. Okay, so I'm going to add, well, I was going to add some highlights and I did, but then I didn't like it at all, so I will like go over them. So you can see I've kind of stopped there and I was looking at it. I was like, ooh, no, 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 no. So I added a whole bunch of like dots and stuff to the background to lighten things up a little bit, of course, because it did need some highlights, but just not on the mandalas. And then I went over there, ta-da, fixed. So that's pretty much it. I'm just going to sign it there and finish that off. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry again for this being so late, but things will get back to normal now that I'm back. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and click that bell so you get notified. And yeah, thanks again for watching, and I hope you join me again for another arty video. Bye!